Always fun to be at home to have to do a show because, you know what? I never thought when we started this show and this podcast that we would be pushed back from work a couple of times for one particular person who's a government official. But we're home again because of the same person, this time not in Las Vegas, but this time back home in Philadelphia. And because of the Leah Coors Center about to be packed, we decided to stay home, do the show from home. Welcome.
We got a
to the
second
PHLY
government official in the city today too. It's just the whole city is just a zoo today. We figured that we'd save ourselves the headache of trying to deal with traffic and Secret Service and whatever else.
I will tell you what, I am much less annoyed at Vice President Harris interrupting our day this time. I would much rather be sitting at home in my air conditioning than 110-degree Vegas heat. So this one is much more tolerable for sure. Yeah.
And the difference here, like you just said, is so much cooler than it was the last time we had to deal with. And plus all the stuff that Kyle said about the Secret Service, we didn't want to expose him to the Secret Service again after calling them out the way that they did. So we said, let's stay home. So they don't come after our partner here from the PHLY Sixers podcast. Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck, I'm Devon Givens. Brianna is with us. She's not on camera, but she's always here with us. So are you in the comments. We'll discuss so many things today from our timeout last night. We'll explain what that is a little bit later. Also, Joel Embiid preparing for another game tomorrow with Team USA. We'll talk about his game before, over the weekend. Kyle mentioned it briefly yesterday, but we'll talk about it a little bit more because we have to discuss one Sixer that we did not talk about yesterday, a former Sixer who did make a ton of all-star games in the Sixers uniform, so we didn't bring him up yesterday, and that is one Charles Barkley, the Hall of Famer. He reps Philadelphia well, and he talks about the Philadelphia 76ers quite a bit, not just on TNT during the pre, post, and halftime shows that he has, but also whenever he decides to go on a variety of different shows nationally to talk about a ton of things basketball-related. And this time it came back around to one of his favorite topics with Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq not in this spot, but Joel Embiid. Talking about Joel Embiid, Derek, and speaking about how he may not be in shape right now. Not forget about may not. He said he's not in shape, and he should be embarrassed about his conditioning right now for Team USA. He had a good game against Puerto Rico over the weekend. We'll see how he responds with this upcoming game on Wednesday.
Good, relatively speaking. I don't know if I would say outright good. Good.
No, we're not doing a victory tour, but he wasn't bad.
He wasn't terrible, which is basically the bar right now, which is pretty unfortunate for a guy who's a perennial MVP candidate.
Yes. So he was better than the last time we saw him out there on the floor against South Sudan. We'll say that. And with it, Charles Barkley has some things to say and said he should be embarrassed about how he looks out there. And what are your thoughts as we start things off?
So I don't think Charles is completely wrong. Like, I think we've all been relatively concerned about his conditioning level and pointing out that he doesn't have the lift and he's not necessarily moving as well as he was 6 months ago before the injury. You don't 100% know whether or not that is the big bulky brace he's wearing or whether that is just being out of shape. There's some understanding that Joel Embiid's never been in great shape when he's not actively playing basketball. Like he can take 2 weeks off, come back, and he looks a little bit sluggish. So obviously rehabbing, and we can argue whether or not he should find a way to stay in shape. I don't think we all agree that he can do a better job of that, but I think we all sort of expected it. So there might be you could say, like, I understand why he's not in perfect shape, although I think that's giving him a little bit of an out. I do think there are ways he can be more prepared even when he can't play basketball at a high level. So no, I don't necessarily think he's wrong. And the only thing I would say is I hope that when he leaves this Olympic experience, he is not hindered by that knee, and he can then dedicate the next month and a half to getting in the shape that he needs to be. I don't really care too much if he is out of shape for this Olympic stint. In fact, if the reason he is playing poorly is that he's out of shape, that's the one that I can excuse the easiest and look past the easiest, because that is correctable in the next couple of months. If it's that there's lingering problems with that knee, that might not be as easily correctable. If it is other symptoms, just of this is the impact of multiple knee or injuries to that knee and surgeries to that knee, that's tougher to correct. So I hope that what we're seeing is just that he's out of shape. But certainly I think part of it is that he's not in the shape that he needs to be in. And I do think he has done a better job over the last couple of years of being in shape than he was earlier in his career, but he's never been in tip-top shape. That's just not been Joel Embiid's trajectory, whether that's his body type or something he can control, or whether that's just the fact that he's never had the meticulous attention to detail with the diet and the exercise to be in shape. And he probably has a body type that he needs to be, almost maniacal in his attention to detail with that. He probably has just never had that throughout his career. I think it's been a pretty, even when you say he's been in better shape the last couple of years, it's never really been in good enough shape. But like I said, I almost hope that what we're seeing is that he's out of shape, because that is the easiest one to correct, or at least to move in the right direction.
I would agree with you from the perspective of it's better if he's simply out of shape versus his health is still bad enough that he has limited mobility and explosion and doesn't trust himself. And he talked openly about the learning to trust his body again thing after coming out of this specific injury that he just dealt with. Where I disagree is like, I don't think we can just call this quote unquote easily correctable anymore. Joel Embiid has been in the
I don't
league
think I said
for,
easily correctable. I said more correctable than like lingering knee problem.
well, but I don't even think splitting the hairs really matters here. It's like, if he's not 10 years into his career, having not achieved anything beyond going the second round and having his first ever opportunity to play in the Olympics, knowing the spotlight is on him regardless, but also because he's spurned France, the host country, who's going to fucking give it to him every single time he touches the floor. If you're not on high alert and like high priority to be in shape, and if you haven't shown that at any point in your career, if we're still here 10 years in saying, it takes me a little longer to get back. And it's like, no, man, I don't want to hear that kind of stuff. And he has not said that here, to be clear. But historically, Joel has always said, it takes me longer to get back into game shape than other guys. It's like, well, then maybe you should take that as a lesson and like an indictment on how you prepare yourself for the game, right? Now, I don't know what all goes into that, right? I think if we look at the skill work that he does, Joel clearly puts a lot of time in on the skill development part of the game, that he's added so much to his game. But if we're talking about, like, I can't tell how dramatically his diet has or has not changed. I can't tell what his, off-court conditioning, whether that's weights, whether that's running, tennis, whatever it might be. I feel like a broken record here. I've harped on it over and over again. I would love for him to just embrace a goddamn swimming pool. Seems to be the solution to a lot of these problems, where that's a low impact environment. It's a great cardiovascular exercise to keep yourself in shape while also not putting pressure and stress on your joints, specifically like your knees and your feet, which for him are big problem areas. So I just am at the point where I'm sick of even having to think about his conditioning, right? And when you compare him to these other guys on the team, I know that he's a different sort of big than Anthony Davis and Bam Adebayo, but it's the middle of the summertime for them too. It's the middle of the summertime for all these guys. Those guys are flying up and down the floor. They're sprinting. They had clear mobility advantages and are able to leverage that in this environment. Like, I don't want to see you on Team USA just kind of like moseying around, right? If you're going to do that, then Steve Kerr, put him on the end of the bench, and I don't want to see it. I want to see effort, activity, conditioning, all that. I don't care if he scores 2 points a game as long as he's out there and looks like he's prepared for this moment. And what I have seen, I don't think that that's the case. I think he is a skilled enough and talented enough player that he's been able to positively impact some of these games, whether it was the exhibition schedule or that game on, was it Saturday against Puerto Rico? But by and large has been just kind of all over the place. And I think a lot of it comes down to not properly preparing himself.
Oh no, my point was not that you should just accept Embiid being out of shape. My point was much more the alternatives are fucking terrifying. So I and a little bit of defeatism in the fact that I don't expect him to drop 40 pounds. I just don't expect somebody who has never that kind of attention to detail on that aspect of his game to all of a sudden develop it. So yeah, I think I broadly agree with you. It was more just focusing on, well, if that's not the excuse, and I'm a little concerned about his lack of mobility.
And that's the only thing. That's the other part that we just don't know. He's still playing with that knee brace. When we saw him initially, he did not have the knee brace on, and then he had the knee brace on. So how much of that is a problem for him for what he wants to do? Kyle, you're right. When you're looking at Davis and Bam Adebayo and the way that they just can run circles around him right now because of their conditioning, how they're able to get up and down the floor, that doesn't look good when you're talking about Joel Embiid. But one of the things that we do talk about him, the skill set is we already know what that is. He can do that, but just waking up and going out there and dropping whatever he needs to drop in terms of points out there on the floor because of his skill. But it's everything else that makes him so great to go with the skill, if the conditioning and the weight and the injuries, which he can't do anything about right now, but if the injury is not holding him back, then he's not himself. And he doesn't look like himself. He's still looking to get into shape. But we were in Las Vegas a month ago now, and we're still talking about the exact same thing. We discussed him playing for Team USA. This is an opportunity for him to get ramped up. He's not normally playing basketball, meaningful basketball at this time. This is going to get him right and get him ready. So when it does get to come around into September and October, there shouldn't be much that he has to do to get right back into it for training camp in the preseason to get ready for the regular season. But right now, he still seems like he's in that same place that we saw him a month ago when things got underway. And that is disappointing because of what we thought this would do for him, being around these other players. Now, mentality-wise, when it comes to the floor and the game and all how that may impact him when he get back here for the season, that's still to be determined. But for right now, and seeing all of these players, as you just pointed out, not just those front court players, but everybody else in the type of shape that they're in, it is disappointing to watch them and to still have these discussions. And there's not much, not that we need to stand up for Joel Embiid, because we don't. But when they're talking about it, it's pretty accurate for the mere fact that we're looking at what we're looking at. We're looking at the product out there on the floor right now, and he's still behind those others. The only question that you do lend to just kind of hang out there is the fact that, is the knee still bothering him and is preventing him from doing other things that will stop him from getting back into shape? That's more game shape of that, keeping him from being the person that we know that we've seen him to be. And that's one that we don't know. And that's one that maybe he'll use it, but a lot of people in the chat are already talking about they're tired of that as being an excuse. And part of it, of which he'll never get the benefit of the doubt, is for the reasons of the injuries during the regular season, the injuries during the postseason, and the fact that whatever has caused him to not advance past that second round and get to the Eastern Conference Finals and the NBA Finals. There's going to be a number of excuses all the time for Joel Embiid because of the lack of playoff success that he hasn't had, and partly because of things that we felt that he could have done to prevent those things, and then the others that were unpreventable when it comes to the injuries of having a broken nose, a broken hand, and things like that there's nothing he could do about. So it's warranted the discussion just because. And it's unfortunate that now we're talking 10 years into his career, knowing he was going to play for Team USA, and the spot that he's in right now, he's still not in the best shape that he should be in to compete in this tournament right now. Yeah.
3 real quick things. When I said easily correctable, I more meant like it's easy to get him back to the shape he previously was, not that you can get him. Not that it's easy to get him back to the shape that he should be at. So I think just 1 point of clarification there. The other thing, it's a little rich just coming from Charles Barkley, notoriously out of shape and tough to stay in shape. That being said, it's his job as an analyst. I get it. Still a little hypocritical. And the third thing I would say is I think a lot of people still equate a lot of his injuries to being out of shape, and certainly maybe some of the lower body ones. But for the most part, I think his injuries up to this point, it didn't matter what kind of shape he was in, to the elbow in the eye multiple times, or once the shoulder in the eye. Distinction doesn't matter. But where I will say, I think it's much more important, like the shape and the injury concern is more important as a forward-looking concern than it was past-looking. As he's accumulating these lower body injuries, and Kyle has been hammering this point home, I would love to see him at 270-ish pounds instead of 300-ish pounds. I think it'll be easier to navigate these injuries. That's more my concern than how he looks in August. And I certainly share Kyle's concern that I don't trust Joel Embiid to get down to that level.
Well, I would say this regarding Charles. I think he's the perfect guy to deliver this message because he had a lot of these same issues. And he likes to tell the story about Billy Cunningham didn't play me right away because he said I was fat and lazy. And I asked Moses Malone, who lived in my building with me, why am I not getting opportunities? I'm really good. And he said, because you're fat and lazy. And Moses took him under his wing, and it was, things take off from there. And that's clearly, it wasn't just a straight line trajectory, right? Like Charles during his time in Philadelphia had his ups and downs, but he had some similar ups and downs as Joel, where he was a very good, very productive player, right? And it was easy to hide behind, well, the team's not good enough, and the team wasn't good enough. But also, Charles did not always put himself in the best position to be the number one guy on those teams in the late 80s, and before he was traded to Phoenix. Coming off of the Olympics, he used that summer to make a statement. He was the leading scorer on that Team USA team, the Dream Team in 1992, despite not being the lead shot taker on that team. Comes into that next season in great shape, has a better supporting cast, and he's able to go to his first finals ever. And it's all of it, right? It's not just that Charles was in shape. Some of it was that Charles was more experienced. Some of it was that Charles had a better team around him to support him as the number one guy than he did in, 88, 89, 90 in Philly, where it's all the good talent for the Sixers had left, and he's forced to try to carry guys who were not good enough to go there with him. But he had to learn that lesson the hard way. And so I think he's the exact guy who needs to deliver this message to Joel, because his career is eerily similar, other than the injuries, to Joel Embiid's career, where everyone respects the talent. Everyone knows that he's a, top 5, top 10 player that at his peak didn't have maybe the best team around him, but also was not doing himself all the favors that he needed to. So I always hope, and I think Joel is smart enough to take these criticisms the right way. And I hope that he takes this the right way, coming from Chuck, who is very open about the fact that, he still lives in Philadelphia in the summer. He still roots for the Sixers, along with the Phoenix Suns, primarily, wants the team to succeed. So when he's saying these things to Joel, I think he believes he's being like that older brother, maybe like the uncle trying to pass down some wisdom to Joel Embiid, having been there before. So I hope that Joel is able to receive that in the right way and not just dismiss it as, no, he's this grumpy old Chuck who just sits on TV and talks trash about everybody.
I would agree that I certainly think it's coming from a good place with Chuck. I think he wants Joel and the Sixers to seed. I 100% agree with that.
All right, well, we'll talk a little bit more about that when we come back on the other side. Keep the Charles Barkley, Joel Embiid conversation going right here on this Tuesday on the PHLY Sixers podcast. Hey, got to tell you, well, right now, as there's some brightness going on in the city that's keeping us away from our studio in the office. And when you do have to deal with some of that brightness, like we did in Las Vegas, and even now with them in town, the only thing that's stopping us from using our Shady Rays glasses right now is the fact that we might get some storms here. A little partly cloudy, getting a little dark out there. But if you're getting ready to travel, once things clear up in terms of the weather back here in the area, you have to get ready to throw those Shady Rays on your face and have a bunch of people asking, where can I get those? Well, get ready again with these quality shades that are built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. And Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product. All right, rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. And their shades have durable frames, crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They probably have a style in your team's favorite color as well as you start to shop at shadyrays.com. And for me, again, just being out there in Las Vegas with Kyle and Derek, and we had our shades out there, especially sitting out there in the sun at the stadium swim at Circa, and we had to throw our shades on because it was pretty sunny even in the morning. Walking up and down the strip, walking to the arena, things that we needed to do, we had to do that and to make sure we threw those on. A family event that I had 2 weekends ago. It was very, very sunny here in Philadelphia, and I put on my Shady Rays glasses, and everybody else was a little bit jealous. But I had to tell them where I got them from, and I'm telling you exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out the best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com, use code PHLY for 35% off those polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Folks, you won't be disappointed.
And guys, when you're outside and you need those sunglasses for whether it's a little get together, barbecue, cookout, you're at the park, you're at the beach, you can always use a nice cold beer in your hands, right? Nice adult beverage on the weekend, or maybe you're taking a vacation, you're enjoying a summer week, not having to think about work. So when you're trying to get away from the day-to-day annoyances or the big stuff, like debating Joel Embiid's conditioning in the middle of the summer with a bunch of people who think he's out of shape, there's always a better way. There is a chiller way. You can choose chill and then reach for an ice cold Coors Light, because with Coors Light, you know you're getting an ice cold beer when the mountains turn blue on the bottles and cans right as they hit that perfect temperature. We have our ups and downs in the summertime, just like we do in the cold months in the fall and the spring, right? Like summer's not all great. You still got to get some work done, work on your house. You got to deal with all kinds. You're catching up on your, maybe for us, our conditioning that goes awry when we're in the middle of the season and things just go by the wayside. And after you get to the end of a long day, you're working hard, you're sweating hard, and you want something refreshing. You can always step back, have a Coors Light, cold layered, cold filtered, cold packaged beer with a smooth finish, and get that mountain cold refreshment. So when you choose to rise above it all, choose chill, choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company in Golden, Colorado, where I am probably not allowed after all the things I've said about the people from that state. But shout out to Coors Light.
They let bygones be bygones. You'd be all right.
I think you very specifically said Denver. I don't know if you said the state.
Yeah, but is there I don't know how much of a distinction there. Like, do people from I don't know if it's like Pennsylvania, where I don't really care what people say about Pennsylvania. I care what people say about Philadelphia. But that's a very Philadelphia thing. It's a weird state where it's, what's the old saying? It's like it's Pennsylvania. It's Philadelphia
on
and
the
Pittsburgh
east,
with, and then you name
Kentucky
a
in the middle,
state in between. Yeah. Alabama, Kentucky, whatever, Tennessee, whatever you want to call it. So it's a weird state. Pennsylvania is a beautiful state. I enjoy many parts of it. I'm just saying that I don't know if, I think Denver might mean more to Colorado than here. I don't know. It's a question for our folks at DMVR, I guess.
It is, because they're huge on the Colorado Buffalo stuff, and that's become a big thing with those folks out there. So I'm curious. It's a good question.
Prime, baby.
Yeah, man.
Network out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that is. Did you see the cool video though of he and Devin Hester, when Devin Hester put on his Hall of Fame jacket? It's pretty cool.
I have seen exactly zero Coach Prime content because he irritates the hell out of me.
Yeah, it was more Devin Hester than he just happened to be the one giving him his jacket, and that was pretty cool. But as far as sometimes people get annoyed hearing Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal talk about Joel Embiid and the things that he's not doing out there on the floor versus what he is doing. And like you guys said, it's generally coming from a good place, especially when it comes from Charles Barkley. But in the past, Kyle, when Shaq and Barkley have talked about him on TNT and even done so, and then had Embiid on as the post-game guest and told them how they feel, he always seems like he is at least gracious enough to sit there and listen to them and take in what they talk about. And we know Charles Barkley is around the team quite a bit. When he does, before the season starts, he'll make his rounds. Sometimes Brett Brown in the past will have him speak to the team. So it's not as if he hasn't said these things privately that he is saying publicly that we've now seen. But to your point, Joel Embiid generally responds well, at least in the public eye, of what those guys have to say. So I'd imagine, to your point, that he'll just say, hey, those guys have their opinion and I have to go out there and do my job.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think he's going to run from it. I think if he's actually asked about something like this, he would probably default to still trying to find my way back from the knee injury and all that, which, to Derek's point, that would be where you start getting concerned, where you say, look, we're how far removed from actually having the surgery? That'd be about 6 months at this point, right? So that's pretty far removed from when the actual procedure took place. And if we're to believe nothing has happened structurally, there are no other problems in the meantime, if that means that this is sort of the immediate future and maybe the medium term future, that's not good, right? Like this
No,
version of Joel Embiid is not going to cut it for whatever reason that he's struggling right now. They need him to be able to. He doesn't have to be rookie year Joel Embiid, who's capable of putting people on posters and was a much better athlete than he is currently. But they do need there to be like somewhere in the middle ground of Joel, where he's able to go from one side of the lane to the other very quickly, where he's able to hedge on a pick and roll, get back to the rim, and still play impactful rim defense. And so that, to me, the reasoning matters, but it doesn't really matter. All that end of the day we need to see is the Joel Embiid who's capable of anchoring a top 5 to 8 defense in the league, and a Joel Embiid that is able to move well enough and run fast enough that he can be a diverse offensive weapon on a 3-star team, right? That doesn't mean having to score 35 points a game. It means sometimes scoring 30 plus. It also means sometimes setting a lot of screens, running a lot of pick and rolls with Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and whoever else might combine with him. But just need to see him start to tick up and tick up and tick up as we get deeper here. And they do have a game that's starting fairly shortly, I believe. Or is that that is today, right? I'm not misremembering.
Devon, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Devon. Or is it tomorrow?
I thought it was tomorrow at 3:30. I could be wrong.
Maybe I'm forgetting my days of the week.
Yeah. As far as the one thing that when we talked about Paul George at the press conference and he looked.
No, they're on right now, actually.
Is it today?
Okay. That. Yeah.
Okay, it is. And Tim Bunk too told us, yep, it is today. Val hosts, we saw Val yesterday. We'll tell where we saw Val yesterday. Said the game is getting ready to get started. Gene, everybody, appreciate it. But it's the one thing that Paul George had pointed out in that press conference of, look, we don't want to have him go ISO for as many times as he goes ISO in the game. And he looked at Nick Nurse and said it in his press conference. And to your guys' point, that's going to take maybe a lot of pressure off of Joel Embiid to have to feel like he has to do so much and being in that type of shape, overwork, putting so much on his body offensively and on defense, where he is susceptible to some injury because he's overworking himself, maybe doing too much, trying to get that block when he really shouldn't, or not landing the way that he should. Then that Paul George piece is really critical. And when he does come back, he knows that he has Maxey and Paul George with the rest of the cast that they put together to help him out at the start of the season. But you also hope that just going right back into it, even though he's going to have about a month off, that he should feel like he's in good enough shape. And if it is the knee, that resting it once again and them doing whatever they need to do to take a look at it and see whatever the scans are. He tells them how he feels and he's honest about it. And they get a really good a way of how they need to approach the start of the regular season. But having Paul George here with Tyrese Maxey should help some of that, to alleviate some of that pressure. And you talked about it before now, and we'll get to our super chat here in a little bit, that maybe he doesn't have to be that Joel Embiid that we saw last year, averaging 33 points, and he can be something totally different and still have the same kind of impact on the game.
Yeah. And I just want to read it. I really don't care how he looks. I care as long as they win the gold, because I don't need the Sixers being tied to the second Olympic team to not win gold. We already got the LBAI team. I don't need that happening again. As long as they win gold, I don't really care if he plays all that well in the Olympics. I've gotten pretty good about ignoring Twitter and ignoring motivated fan bases and haters. I do care. What does it mean when he leaves the Olympics? Does he need to be shut down for a couple of weeks to get that knee right? Or can he go back into trying to get into conditioning so he's ready for the regular season? I think that's going to be a big question. I'm not sure any of us here necessarily fully know the answer to that. And that's really where, he's not where he needs to be physically now. Everyone knows that. He's not necessarily where he needs to be physically most years. But can he at least get back to where he was at January last year? Do I have confidence in that? Or is this just tolls of knee injuries? And can he possibly get better than that by losing some weight to try to get preventative on the future injuries and the wear and tear on that knee? But in terms of what's going on now, it's real hard because we just don't know the cause and effect of what's causing what.
Kyle, did you see if he started the game today?
He is starting. They just showed it. It's Steph Curry, Devin Booker, Drew Holiday, LeBron James, and Mr. Process himself, Joel Embiid, starting at center against Brazil in the quarterfinals.
So outside of that one game, Steve Kerr is sticking to his trio of Curry, LeBron, and Embiid, and mixing in the other guys based on, I guess, matchup and mixing and matching and who's out there on the floor. So,
and that is against a Brazilian team that is basically not starting a big man. So,
yeah,
in theory, he should be able to feast inside quite a bit, but we'll see if that happens in practice.
All right.
I'm going to be watching this game for the rest of the show while you guys do the podcast. So enjoy the rest of your show.
Well, we come back on the other side. We do have to get your input a little bit, though, on some fun time that we had last night. We mentioned we saw our friend Val last night. We saw her, caught up with her. We'll tell everybody where we were and had a peek at a couple of former Joel Embiid teammates of the Philadelphia 76ers. We'll get into that right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast.
First up, we want to make sure we tell you about Ace Hardware. If you've got a leaky pipe, at Ace Hardware Home Services, they're around the block with everything you need to fix it, including, and this is very crucial for me, including the person to do the fixing, because Lord knows I'm not doing that. If you've got air conditioning issue, was it Eugene? Eugene, if this happens again, please get that fixed ASAP. Yes. They've got a person for that too. If you've got a faucet you said you'd fix last fall, again, another one of my real traits. I love putting off home to do projects. They've got that person as well, because now they're not just the helpful hardware folks, they're also the helpful home service and repair folks. From plumbing to heating and cooling, they've got the trusted pros to keep your home humming all year long. Ace Hardware Home Services, they're bringing helpful home, the helpful you love, from the store to your front door. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at www.acehardwarehomeservices.com to get you started on your next project.
Heard the word helpful quite a bit there. I sure hope they are. I need Ace Hardware in a big way, as Joel Embiid already commits a turnover to open the game, which I'm sure will quiet exactly nobody's concerns. I have a great friend, a new friend I want to tell you guys about, though, today. We joke on this show that I'm the beverage king of PHLY. You know what the beverage king needs to keep his beverages, whether they're alcoholic or non-alcoholic, cold? That's a great cooler. And our friends at Rugged Road have you covered. Rugged Road is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Rugged Road's products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions. One of the most unique features of Rugged Road coolers is their ability to always float upright, so you never lose a drink. I know Derek is nature boy Ric Flair over there. Loves
Buddy,
to go
I'm going
camping,
on a camping trip in 3 weeks. If they want to send me a Rugged Road cooler, I will give
Derek
that a test
would be
run.
a great spokesperson for this brand, because this is the type of cooler that Derek needs, that you need if you're out in the wilderness, you're out on the beach, you don't know where it's going to go, right? You're traveling around, you're having a good time, you're trying to keep your drinks with you. Here's the other good news. It's lightweight despite also being heavy duty. It sounds counterproductive, but it actually means it's the perfect choice to take with you just about anywhere. It's also durable and dependable. It's crafted to handle the toughest environments, built to last, so they can keep up with any adventure that you go on. So you guys, today, I want you to gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers. They're reliable, durable, and built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use code PHLY for 10% off of your purchase. I think I might go make a purchase myself with that discount code. We shall see.
And just as you talk about Joel making that turnover, Val updates us and tells us he knocks down a 3.
There we go. All right, Joe. Now we're cooking.
So there you go. I got a sense that the last game, since he felt like he played better, egging it on, getting into it with the crowd, and then also publicly his teammates backing him. LeBron James saying, look, we got our teammates back. We got Joel's back no matter what. And we always are. So hearing that is good. And I'm sure, I think that maybe that'll carry some of that over from the game before to where we are here today. Derek, the other one that people are talking about too is, just want to ask this because I know I've seen this when exhibition started in the showcase games and now in this actual group play, that some people complaining that Steve Kerr doesn't know how to coach Joel Embiid. What are your thoughts on that?
His job isn't to coach Joel Embiid. His job is to get wins as a Team USA coach. There's so much talent on this squad that he shouldn't be looking to maximize Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid's got to find a way to fit in. I don't look, and I think this might be tough on Joel in terms of if he's not good in the first like 2 or 3 minutes, he's yanked. And I think Joel Embiid is very much a rhythm basketball player. And besides the fact that he doesn't look physically the same, I think it's probably tough for him to try to get into a rhythm in 2 to 3 minute stints. But it's just not Steve Kerr's job to maximize Joel Embiid. And they've been able to win by 20 plus points pretty much every time. So look, I don't think Steve Kerr's been perfect, but I also don't think it's his job to worry about that so much. If Joel Embiid's not performing, he's got 2 very qualified candidates who can fit the style of play they want.
Also, the reason I really disagree with that statement, the guy who's struggling the most on Team USA is fucking Steph Curry, who he is.
He knows how to,
So he absolutely knows how to use Steph. In fact, helped unlock him in a different way as they changed those lineups and figured out that Draymond Green, Steph Curry combination on a higher level. And I think if you look at what they're running with Joel Embiid, there are too many post-ups for, I think, Joel's liking, if you were to ask him. But also in an environment where you're playing with 4 other all-stars or high-level players at any given time, you're going to post up to draw the double and then create that 4-out system where these guys can just bomb away. But otherwise, you've seen a lot of dribble handoffs and playing through Joel in that way. And that's where he's more comfortable than as a pure like rim running big. They haven't asked him to be Anthony Davis on offense, right? Where he's screening 35 feet from the basket and then sprinting to the rim. They're asking him to be Joel Embiid. It's just that he hasn't been as good as he normally is yet. So I don't put a lot of blame on Steve Kerr. I think if anything, Steve Kerr has been pretty patient with him, as a lot of people have put pressure on Team USA to change their lineups and move him out of the lineup entirely in favor of one of these other bigs. So I feel like there's a big anti-Steve Kerr contingent in general with the Warriors for some reason, despite the fact that he took over and they immediately started winning. And maybe you view that as inevitable with the talent there. But Team USA, by the way, is absolutely cooking right now. It's 16-6. And I've seen at least a few good defensive or rebounding possessions from Joel to start fast breaks the other way. So they are playing well early, and I'm sure the critics will be very quiet as we start this one against Brazil.
And Joel's gotten a lot of the looks that he typically gets in the Sixers uniform. Some he's made, some he hasn't. On the defensive end, he's been okay, but when they stretch him and take him away from the basket on the defensive end and he has to close out on those 3-point shooters, I mean, you got guys like Daniel Tice knocking down threes. There's not much he can do because, they can take advantage of it in this style of play, this FIBA basketball overall. So, I mean, look, as you guys said, Steve Kerr is doing his job. He's got to coach the entire group and a lot of personalities, a lot of egos on that team. He has to figure out who has to get time, who has to shorten time, and who fits best with who. He's got a lot of work to do with that team. And Steph Curry is struggling. Joel Embiid struggling as well. Others not. The other one that we see that's pretty consistent with this USA team is people saying that Kyle playing with LeBron James as a dominant ball handler, dominant player like that gets so much touches, but he's kind of running point guard, similar, he's running point guard. Even with the ball in his hand is in that way, he is finding Embiid. He's finding the rest of his teammates. He's not taking all the shots. So, but that's one that's also out there that people are complaining when it comes to how's he going to get into any kind of rhythm when LeBron is the one dominating the ball the way that he is.
If Joel was making like 2 more free throws and a couple more shots he normally makes a game, I don't think anybody would even be thinking twice about his performances. I've found it very hard for me to find the middle ground on Joel's Olympic performance. Because on the one hand, I do see him doing some of the little things I wanted to see. And we've talked about this on the show, the rescreening, the just buying into, like, you're one of the guys on offense. You're not somebody who's jab stepping at the free throw line for 12 seconds of the shot clock and then figuring out what you need to do. You're a part of the machine, not the machine yourself. He actually just scored right now on a quick entry pass from, I believe it was Devin Booker. And so I think I've seen pace of play on offense. That's been a big positive to me, because that's something that you can translate to playing with Tyrese and Paul and all these other guys back in Philly, where it doesn't always have to be you. And in fact, oftentimes it shouldn't be you just creating everything from a standstill. I want Joel to get easier baskets. I want people to set him up, not the other way around. Like, he already, by being on the floor, makes everyone's life easier. And so they need to engineer ways to just get him easy baskets. I think that's something he can learn from being around these guys, where he's cutting a little bit more, or he's making early seals a little bit more, or whatever it might be. Just playing off of all these guys. That part's great. It's just the mobility, the effort at times on defense, all that kind of stuff has me concerned, but we'll see where he ends up. He is off to a good start. They are off to a good start today. So hopefully this is kind of a positive jumping off point as they get into these knockout games late in the Olympics.
And Derek, Paul George is probably going to have the ball in his hands as a secondary ball handler quite a bit within the Sixers offense too, setting him up, setting Maxey up, setting others up, getting shots for himself. So we saw it with Jimmy Butler. We saw it with Ben Simmons, where they had the ball in their hands quite a bit. Also, Simmons, we know, overpassed a lot. But LeBron James passes the ball and scores. Jimmy Butler, again, had the ball in his hands. So it's not like he's unfamiliar with playing with somebody that dominates the ball at the point of attack.
No. And like we've mentioned a lot, I think the two-man game, either between him and Maxey or him and Paul George, is going to be so much better than it was with Ben Simmons, that I think it's going to be, I think they will find ways to make each other's lives easier. I think they will find ways to make, give Joel Embiid an easier look than maybe he is accustomed to. I think he and Tyrese Maxey continue to grow that. I always go back to JJ Redick. JJ Redick was one of the best that they have had in terms of being able to get an easy scoring opportunity for Joel Embiid, just because of the gravity he had coming off of that DHO. I think Maxey can continue to grow in that aspect, and it's going to take time. Playing in next to, like, he might be playing without the ball in his hands, but how he's playing now, and I guess more specifically how it's defended now, is going to be different than it is in the regular season. The good thing about that is they will have a lot more time to try to figure that out, whereas on Team USA, it's sort of being done on the fly. And like I said, you only have 10 to 15 minutes per night to play anyway, so there's probably not all that much headroom they can make right now. You just hope it gets fractions of a percent better, so that he looks more comfortable and more natural, and maybe some of the angry people online can shut up a little bit. But certainly in terms of maybe getting
another
his mindset
where for Joel, by the way, so he's cooking early.
There you go.
You said another three.
But in terms of the adjustment, maybe just getting him into that mindset a bit more, so when he gets to training camp, he can then build off of that.
Absolutely. The super chat that we were discussing a little bit earlier before we get to our evening out, where we ran into Val, real time with Prince Blue, checking in again in the super chat. 25 points per game and other things is best going forward. Well, it was something that you guys talked about before I was able to join you last season, when the season was getting underway, where you guys had September, the training camp, preseason, and of course the regular season. I agreed with you while watching the shows, and even with him in the flow of the offense, giving you the 33, that was phenomenal, the way that he was doing it, and they were winning games, so it wasn't really taken away from Nick Nurse's offense. Kyle, was something that you really, really, hung your hat on at the beginning of last season. Is that something that you want to see again coming into this year?
So the 25, I don't want to focus so much on that 25 point per game or any like arbitrary number. That's just somewhere where it's like we settled on that just to kind of illustrate the point. To me, it's more just seeing Joel adapt, right? Because for the most part, Joel Embiid's games, especially in the regular season, look the same. He comes out and is absolutely on fire, wears teams down in the first 2.5 quarters. And then it's kind of up to Maxey to provide the closing kick, or the game is out of reach and it doesn't really matter at that point. I would like to see at least a little bit more. And look, you take if he is going to give you 30, you take the 30 wherever you can get it. What I would like to see more of is deferring more early in games and finding your role players, finding your shooters in the first quarter, like looking for the Kelly Oubres, the Eric Gordons, the Kyle Lowrys, the guys who are not going to create, or the Caleb Martins, another guys who are not going to be able to go out and get their own shot whenever they want. People who are relying on rhythm and just some early feel in the offense, and saving a little bit of energy early in the game so that you have more in the second half, so that if it does get tight in the end of the third quarter, deep into the fourth quarter, you still have that extra gear to go to, right? Like, I believe in your talent and your ability to go out there and score in those tough moments. So just don't overtax yourself in the first, 5, 10, 15 minutes that you're going to play on a given night, and to see a little bit more of that. Now, granted, if they're winning, if he's playing really well and he's earning himself rest on the bench in fourth quarters, that's also great. I just think that there needs to be a little more, finding his offense within the flow of the offense, rather than just being, all right, everything is through you and you're going to go out and score 1 billion points, but there might be long stretches of the game where nobody else touches the ball. Like, to me, that's the key. It is just having it be this organic, more free-flowing offense. And I think deep in his heart of hearts, I do think Joel wants to play that way. But what I think he wants most is to win. And so he needs to be validated. If he's going to spread the ball around, if he's going to pass the ball early and get away from his early dominance in these games, he needs to be rewarded by his teammates making shots. Otherwise, I think he will default to, I'm the hero, I'll go out there and carry the team. And I don't think he's wrong to think that way, right? Like any star, if the rest of their guys aren't doing anything, is going to feel like, I'm the best player on the team, get in my backpack, and I'll carry us all to the finish. And that's how he's carried himself most of his career.
Yeah, and I think at the start of last season, we sort of saw that mentality. So I think it's certainly within him. And going back to the super chat, real-time super chat, like, I think if he comes in with that mentality, the end product is probably that he's going to score. I'm not going to say 25. 25 is a low number for Joel, but somewhere in that 27 to 30 range. Yeah. I think that would be the end result of that.
Yeah. Well, it looks like as we're getting play-by-play from the folks in the chat, AC Filler letting us know a lot of what's going on. Kyle, you already told us, looks like Embiid is having a pretty good game. As Team USA has really turned it up against, you said it was Brazil that they're playing. So we'll have to check the game out once we are done. But we had some fun last night. We had a team outing for us. Last month it was the Sphere, checking out the Dead and Company. Last night we had a team outing where we went to a basketball game to watch the championship at the 19th annual Rumph Classic. It was at Community College of Philadelphia. So we had a chance to hang out for a couple of hours. We ran into our good friend Val. She came by. She stopped by. Derek was a little behind us. He didn't get a chance to see her, unless he did catch up with her. But Kyle and I saw Val, and it was good. It was great to see her. And I wanted to get you guys' thoughts. Derek, starting with you. First time at the Rumph. The Morris twins were playing against the Rumph Center last night in the championship game. And we got out of there a little bit earlier than expected. Well, we got out of there probably at the right time, because I told you guys it starts on Rumph time, not actual time, but Rumph time. And everybody who's been there understands what I'm talking about. But Derek, your thoughts of the atmosphere, the event in general. I know it was just a championship game, but the idea of it, after speaking to Mike and seeing it yourself, what are your thoughts?
No, it was a real good atmosphere of basketball. And I thought it was a good collection of talent. Obviously, the Morris twins, probably the highlighter. And if you were a big fan of Marcus Morris pull-up jumpers, he certainly gave you a ton of that. But you saw a bunch of the back and forth going on. I think it was Isaiah Wong and who was the other guy he was going up against. But you saw some real
Isaiah
good
Wong was absolutely
he was incredible.
killing people.
But there was a real good back and forth going on there between the two teams of everyone understanding their role and just getting out of the way and letting them try to go at each other. So that was fun. The crowd was into it. No, it was overall. And I mean, Alizé Johnson in transition was fun. He was being made fun of constantly as Ben Simmons, having a Ben Simmons game. So the announcer was fun. It was just a real good atmosphere all around.
I have a couple takes. One, I think Derek and I stood out almost as much as Devon did at a Dead and Company concert. Which, that's no problem with that, obviously, but it's definitely
you guys are comfortable in the environment. You're all good, all good.
I've been there before, so I kind of knew what to expect on that front.
As Darkness would say, we had our white pants on.
So no, listen, it's a great event because, and to the point about the announcer, I always forget how much I love having someone with a microphone just basically either
making
talking
fun of the
trash
players
or hyping up the crowd the entire game, because it's a lot different than having a PA guy, right? When Alizé Johnson is hearing he's got that Ben Simmons game every time he touches.
And by the way, he played pretty well last night too. And he was still getting made fun of every time he touched the ball.
Let me add to you is when he kept calling him a traffic cone on the other end. He's a moving traffic cone.
He's a moving cone out there. No, the worst one was, and I wish I remembered who it was. I feel bad that I don't. But there was somebody on the Rumph Center team who I don't think they had a shot like the entire night, and the announcer kept calling him, "That's somebody cousin out there."
Oh yeah.
Every time he even missed, he goes, "Get him out of the game." And it's part of what we talked with Mike from the Rumph Classic last week, right? About how once you get in there, the resumes don't matter, like where you played, not relevant. What your accomplishments are, not relevant. It's like, what are you doing in that given moment? Like that guy is probably a much better basketball player than any of us sitting here on this set. But last night he played poorly. He shot poorly. And so he was hearing it from this guy every single time he touched the ball. I mean, you had guys who were like jawing with the coach, like, I need to get in the game, right? It's
and we were sitting close enough in the environment anyway, but we were behind the score table and the benches, so we could see it. He's like, I told you should have had me in the game after he hit a three. So he's yelling at Sharif. Sharif is one of the original Danny Rumph friends and one of his guys, and Sharif is coaching the Rumph Center, and he's yelling at Sharif about how he should be in the game. By the way, it's Guy Funny is the guy who was on the mic as the in-announcer and in-game announcer. Guy Funny.
Was great, man.
Yeah, he was funny. But all of that and seeing it. And that kid, I think that's the one that my cousin said he and his friend they played together. So they knew him. I didn't know that kid who was on the Rumph Center team, but that was hilarious as he was calling the other guy too, just that somebody's uncle, get him out of the game.
And then somebody's uncle. It became such a blowout at one point in the second half. I don't know if you guys caught this, that the announcer goes, "We're about to pull 5 out the crowd for the Rumph Center."
I didn't hear him say that.
They're up. The Morris twins were up by like 25, their team.
Yeah.
And so it got real ugly. Now, what I appreciated, they're up a ton with like 3 minutes left, and everybody's like, "Now we're good. Game's over."
Oh yeah, they called the game.
A few more of those in Sixers world. Like, remember when they beat Charlotte by like 58 points or whatever last year, where we were just whooping and hollering, hoping they would beat the all-time franchise record for biggest win.
Mm-hmm.
That's all well and good, but you could also save us the fourth quarter on some of these games. So the mercy rule being in effect was a bit of fun for us.
It was welcome. Yeah. And then, of course, the big moment. So we had our Marcus Morris moment of the nights where he would take the pull-up jumpers, Derek, right? We had that. And but we also had, for both of you, the PJ Tucker moments, plural, of the night for the FOE team playing with the Marcus Morris squad.
When that game started, I said the challenge for PJ, I want him to try to take one person off the dribble once. And he had one running floater, and I was very proud of him for that.
He did it. Yep, he did it.
He did have that, and that was after the three of us and Devon's friends that we met up with at the game were all giving PJ a lot of grief, we'll say, or talking a little bit of mess on the sidelines. But I texted at least a couple friends of mine last night saying, even in this environment, apparently PJ is capable of having a cardio game. So it really is remarkable that most of these guys you see go from the NBA to this environment. Alize Johnson, great example. He's out there getting downhill and just going crazy as a slasher, driving kick type player, transition guy. Meanwhile, PJ just runs corner to corner and gets offensive rebounds. And that's just what he does.
The cardio king.
It was just really, really strange, but very funny to watch.
Yeah, it really was. We were watching the warm-ups, and you were like, oh, he snuck in here. We didn't see him sneak in. And then Derek's watching him warm up on the other end, and he's getting up all these 3-pointers from the corner, the PJ Tucker short corner 3. And that's when Derek said, I just want to see him take one person off to dribble.
Just one.
And he did it. And it was a push shot. It was the runner, and he made it.
Yeah.
And
he didn't get by it. He jumped off the wrong foot.
He looked at him, right? Because they were trying to go at him on the other end, and they were scoring on him. But it was funny as hell, and it's always a fun time. And Mark, who was sitting next to you, my cousin's friend, he was giving PJ the business.
He is not a PJ Tucker friend.
He is not. No, he is not. Not at all. So that was fun. And Val said she had a great time. She said she had an opportunity to see AO, Aaron Owens of the N1 fame. And there were a lot of people in the building. The night before, you guys didn't get a chance to see. Rajon Rondo was there. He stopped by to watch the game. Over the course, you had Ricky Council, Colin Gillespie, Reggie Jackson stopped by, sitting on the Twins' bench on Thursday night just as a spectator. Talked to him after. He said, yo, I love this stuff. So he just wanted to be there. And again, you just never know who's going to show up and be in the building and play in that environment. So it's fun. We hope everybody get a chance to check it out next season. We'll probably have Mike or somebody from the foundation, the Daniel E. Rumph II Foundation, stop by again next year as things get underway. If you want to check it out, the Daniel E. Rumph II as the 2.com for the website. If you want to donate and check it out, see if you can buy some merchandise, whatever, get some t-shirts, hats, shorts, whatever you want to get. It's all available to you. So it was fun though. It was fun to go.
I got 2 t-shirts just for showing up last night. I paid my general admission to get in, and they gave me this. See this purple. I got my Rumph Classic on, and then I got a black t-shirt as well. So that's, you come out. This one, I believe you had to be registered to vote in order to get this one. But that was that was the only thing. It was nice. And then they're selling all kinds of merch. I believe they got a $75K donation during halftime. There's a cool ceremony for that. So yeah, great night, fun time. Happy to do it again next year.
Yeah, got to do it again next year. Maybe we can get you guys in some shorts and some sneakers and some stuff and get out there and play. Like the alumni game. Katino Mobley was playing in the alumni game on Sunday.
I'm not putting myself out there against Katino Mobley. I know better than that.
Katino Mobley.
Talk about sticking out, Kyle. Oof.
Yeah, really. Mobley, I mean, I will be within the height threshold, right, of being able to play, but certainly nowhere in the athleticism, skill, or conditioning thresholds.
Yeah, so it was a good time. Bree, we got to get Bree out there next summer. We got to take Bree with us next summer and make sure she goes to hang out. Jess said she was disappointed that she couldn't make it. And so maybe we'll have an outing, get everybody to come out, go to the Rumph, support the great cause that it is, as that's a big time staple now in the city of Philadelphia. By the way, it's going to be the 20th anniversary, so they're going to do a big next summer. Real fast, before you say something, Derek, just want to let everybody know before we get to our roll call and all that here on the PHLY Sixers podcast, make sure you go sign up for the Die Hard program. Get involved with the Die Hard program to read stories from Derek and Kyle on the Sixers front. Also on the Eagles training camp, getting ready for the preseason game this weekend. You have Bo and Zach. Some stuff from Les Bowen. Phillies going on right now, still having their issues. So Jim Salisbury has you covered. John Foley writing some things as well. You also on the Flyer side have Charlie O'Connor doing his piece as well. So make sure you go sign up as a Die Hard member. Discord only conversations. You might know when we're going to the Danny Rumph Classic if you don't hear it on the show in the Discord. And we'll make sure that we do that next summer with everybody. My fault, Derek. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, I had to get that in 100%. And it's much more valuable than what I'm about to say. All I was saying is we do now have a Papa-Shot in the studio, so we can get that skill level up. We've got a year to work on that.
Very true.
That is a completely different skill than normal basketball, and I hope that people understand that.
Absolutely. So Jess says she'll see us there next year. No question. We'll get Bree out there, get Bree to go with us and check out the Danny Rumph Classic. Bree loves hoops, so she'll enjoy that. All right, folks, it's time for our roll call here as we wind down the show. Get ready to watch the second half of the Team USA
Look at that
basketball.
beautiful graphic.
Cool graphic there. The PHLY roll call, the Sixers roll call here. What do we got, Kyle?
So thank you, as always, to all our friends for stopping through, just like everyone's basketball friends showed up for the Rumph on Monday night at the community college. Thank you to Aaron, to Eden the Remix.
What up, Aaron?
To Eugene Ross, to
G.
Jay the Jungle, to Jess with that
up,
purple
Jay?
heart.
Yep.
AC Phila, to Valhos, who had the
AC.
exact same shirt that I had on last night. Val, it was a missed opportunity to take a picture together. That would have been save that one for the collection when you wear the same shirt together. That was I'm regretting that we didn't get one. Next time we'll coordinate outfits. I'll have my people talk to your people. Phi Chi in the building. Kelly Oubre, super fan. Phil W. Phil, I have not seen you
Where you been?
in a little bit. You slacker. It's good to see you here today, buddy. Hope you are enjoying your summer. That's crazy. I believe we had Darkness in here today.
Whoa.
I see Alexis Hall. I see SB Cole.
What up, SB?
Got in here in the building today. I'm sure Winona was in here.
Winona is in there.
Although
she said she was in flight last night.
That's true. She's flying to Orlando. So we shout out Winona, who's going to see her mother, I believe. So thank you to Winona from afar. Safe travels. Dave Dewar. We got On My Own Yams Now. Randy Rhubarb. What's up to Randy? I'm sure we probably had Provolone John in here as usual. We have Tim Bunk 2. That is a great name, sir.
That's a pretty good one. I like that one. Yeah, I like
Money Mar in the building. Ed Wright in the building.
What up,
Vic
Money Mar?
in the building. Rick Morse in the building. Ray Burrows is here with us also.
What up, Ray?
Thank you to each and every one of you for being here for us. As always, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. And if you hit the thumbs up button,
there it is.
Maybe we will get a single criticism-free performance of Joel Embiid in the Olympics. You never know.
Well,
until next time,
right? Yeah.
The lead has been cut to 11. So I did not see what's been going on these last few minutes. I'll catch up after we're out of here. Hopefully we can talk about a good Team USA win tomorrow. Joel stepping into a nice all right. Anyway, everybody, we'll see you tomorrow, Wednesday, for another show. Catch you then. Thanks for being here.
See ya. Thanks, Bree.